Morning guys, the Tech Prepper. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to continue our series on land navigation. In the last video, I showed you how to take your GPS device, pull coordinates, and plot it on a UTM map using a map we created on Caltopo along with a pocket grid tool. Today we're going to take a look at incorporating a compass, specifically a baseplate compass, and see how this can be another aid for our land navigation in conjunction with the map. Just like the last video, I want to make this very simple, and we need to understand that there are three different types of north: true north, magnetic north, and grid north. We're going to focus on the first two initially, and yeah, there is a difference. True north points to a fixed location on the earth that never changes. Magnetic north is the direction in which your magnetic needle on your compass will point, and there is a difference between these two that are important. And the difference between the true north and the magnetic north, wherever you are in the world, is known as the magnetic declination. And one of the reasons why I love the Suunto MC2G compass is that it allows us to set the difference between true north and magnetic north, set the declination. So let's go ahead and take a look at the map. I'll go over a couple of the different details that are important, along with break down all of the parts on our compass. Let's take a look at our Caltopo map. And on the bottom right-hand corner here, we have our legend that represents the three different types of north. We have true north, which is this straight line with the star. This is also called map north, and it aligns with the right and left edge of our map. The second one is magnetic north, represented by MN, and it is this line that's going off by about 9.8 degrees. This is the north that aligns with the magnetic poles of the earth, so it will either be to the right, to the center, or to the left of true north, and this will vary over time and depending on your location. The last type of north is grid north, and this one is actually just to the left of true north here, and it's represented by the UTM grid line. So these blue lines that we were using for our grid, this is the grid north. What we want to do when we're in the field using our compass in conjunction with the map is we want to offset our compass so that we're always, for the most part, working with true north instead of the magnetic north. So if we take a look at our map, we can see that there is an angular difference between true north, this straight line, and in my case, magnetic north, which goes off to my east by 9.8 degrees. So we want to set our compass to account for that 9.8 degree difference. On the Suunto MC2 compass, there is a way to set that. And we've got this set screw right here. We insert the key and we rotate to the right or the left. When you're looking at it from the bottom here, you'll notice that the orienteering arrow, the boxed red arrow, is a mirror going in the opposite direction. But what you want to do is, once you get it pretty close to that 9.8 degrees, flip it over, and you want the picture to match the true north and the angular difference for the orienteering arrow. So you can see here that if I were to do an imaginary line from this point here to here, that is true north, but you can see that that orienteering arrow, this arrow right here, is at this tech right here, which is about somewhere between 8 and 10 degrees. It's going to be hard to get perfect fidelity, but the goal is to lock in that declination, the angular difference for your area, so that when you're taking bearings, you can write them down as true north bearings. The next thing that is very useful is being able to orient our map to north. And the way we do that is we have on our compass these orienteering lines, or these red vertical lines we have here. And then we can place it over the top of our grid lines. And what you want to do is make sure that you find one of the grid line edges and line that up perfectly. Now at this point, you'll notice that our orienteering arrow and our magnetic needle are not aligned. So what we want to do is do something called put red in the shed. We want to put the magnetic needle in the orienteering section here, and all we do is rotate the map. So at this point now, our compass is perfectly aligned to true north. And if I was to look out in the distance off over here to my west, I should see this terrain feature here, what happens to be a peak called Klein Creek Ruins. And we can essentially start to do what we call terrain association. So I guess the big question is, how does this relate to some of the work we've done with UTM and plotting our positions on the map? Well, we like to do something in the navigation world called route planning. And think of it where you want to make multiple stops on your journey to get from point A to point Z. And there's a bunch of intermediate points of interest. We call those waypoints. And I found a book, gosh, more than 10 years ago called GPS Made Easy, and it's by Lawrence Latham. And this book was written in the early days of GPS, starting all the way back to 1995. My copy's from 99. And in that book, he describes using UTM for route planning. And one of the things he'll do is make a little card that will have all of your waypoints, so each one of your UTM coordinates. And then next to it, we'll have the zone, the easting, and the northing for that coordinate. And then we'll have a bearing that will take you from one waypoint to the next. And the bearing is just the direction that we're going to be traveling, following the heading that is on our compass. So what I want to show you now is we're going to plot a couple of points on our map, and we're going to draw a line from our first waypoint to our second waypoint, and we're going to capture a true north and also a grid north bearing. So when you're in the field at that first waypoint, you can put away your map, all of this stuff, and all you need to do is follow the bearing on the compass. So let's jump right into that. So let's assume we want to do some route planning, and these are all the waypoints that I want to hit before getting to my final destination. Now we're going to be starting over here at this trailhead, and the first waypoint is represented by the one that has the number 1 on our map. And just as a quick recap on how to get here, our easting starts with 403. So we want to come all the way across here to 403. And then our northing starts with 3751 is this line right here. And then we want to come over on our easting over 603 meters. So we come over to the right about 6/10 of that 1 kilometer grid. And then the last 4 digits are 157 meters north, and we come up 157. Now, if you don't believe me, we could take our grid square and we can line it up on the map with the corners of that edge. And then we want to slide over here to about the 600 mark. So right now we're 600. And then in this line here, we want to come up to 157 meters. And I just dropped that pin right there. Next up, we want to take our compass. So on the compass, we have this little arrow here called the direction of travel arrow. And you want to point it in the direction of where you're starting to where you want to go. So we'll take that straight edge and put it right on that dot. And then we're going to rotate it and put it on the other. Now, in order to get a bearing, we need to take our orienteering lines, these red lines on our compass, and we want to take the rotating bezel and then line it up with our grid line. So we'll go ahead and line it up as best we can. And you can see right there that we have our orienteering line lined up with the grid line. For the heck of it, let's go ahead and draw a line from point A to point B. Now, if we take a look at our index line, we see we have this index line right here, and it's at the 40-degree mark. So our bearing from this point to this point is 40 degrees, but that is for a true north bearing. The fact that we used our grid lines or UTM grid lines, we have to come back over here and we see that there is a slight difference between our grid north and our true north. In my case, it is minus 0.6 degrees. It's half a degree. So in my area, I actually don't worry about it. I consider where I am right now, grid north and true north, to be pretty much the same same, especially for these short distances of travel. Again, we're going up about a half grid square, a full grid square, and a little bit less. So from here to about here, that's a mile. For those distances, I'm not really too concerned. All right, folks, hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of an introduction of incorporating a baseplate compass into the work that we've already done with UTM. Now, I'm not a land navigation expert, but I have used these techniques successfully in the field. I encourage everybody to do their own research, get their own training, but I like simple in terms of land navigation, and my technique is to use something like the Garmin Instinct 2X or other GPS receiver. I like working with UTM to pull those coordinates because it's very easy to see and plot myself on a map using that 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer square grid. Really easy to swag and eyeball. And if you need more precision, you can use the grid tool as shown. Now, when you start to do route planning and you have multiple points, multiple waypoints, it's really nice to be able to take our baseplate compass that has been properly set for the magnetic declination in your area, and then you're able to just use the edge and the direction of travel arrow to make a line and then read the bearing of true north that is on the index of your compass. So then in the field, you can put your compass, or you can put your map away, and all you have to do is take your compass and make sure that you box that needle red in the shed and follow that to that next waypoint. Very simple in my opinion. Again, there are some differences between grid north that can cause problems in true north, but in general, it's usually just very few degrees here and there. But if you are in an area where the grid north is significantly different than true north, usually like about say 2 degrees or so, you will have to make manual adjustments. Now, a lot of people tell me, hey, you're a prepping channel and you're relying on things like GPS that can fail. Yeah, that's true. There are advanced techniques where you can do something called terrain association. You could take a look at the map and you can take a look at match up what you're seeing on the map with the terrain, and you can shoot multiple bearings with something like the Sunto MC2 compass. The nice thing about this compass is that it has a sighting mirror and it's very easy to shoot a bearing. And if you shoot 3 bearings, you can kind of triangulate your own position on the map. Now, those are advanced navigation topics. I really don't want this channel to be heavy in navigation. The only reason why I did this series is that I started to record videos in the backcountry where I was trying to triangulate a hidden transmitter that was beaconing for a period of time, and I wanted to be able to take my radio equipment, figure out which direction it was coming, move to multiple points, and triangulate it. So I had some request on how I'm using the map and compass, and that's how this whole series started out. But this is the last video in the series. You guys can take a look at other people that are actually experts in this field. But with that said, guys, I really appreciate you, especially the guys over on Buy Me a Coffee. I'm the Tech Prepper. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared. And don't get lost.